Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Ramadan workshop today. Um, Before we start, I'm just going to launch a poll that we have really quick. Um, it's just going to ask a few questions. So if you guys could take like about 5 minutes to just kind of answer that. Well, not even like 2 to 3 minutes, but how was everyone's day going today?
It's going, Shifa. It's going.
Can everyone drop their names and their roles in the chat, please? Whenever you guys get a chance. Alrighty, I'm going to end the poll at 1:05. I know we have a few people that are just joining in. So whenever you guys are able to fill this out, please do so that we can get started soon. Alrighty, we will begin. Um, my name is Shifa Hassan. I am the URM Program Manager for the Muslim Foster Care Association. Today we have Brother Badad who will be talking about how we can support youth during Ramadan workshop. So I will let him introduce himself and get us started.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday to join us. I hope you all are doing well. Um, what are the results for that thingy that you did? Can we see them, or did I not see them? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, so we got 67%, somewhat confident, familiar. Okay, somewhat knowledgeable. Awesome. Okay. Great. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. But first and foremost, my name is Bilal. I just started with Muslim Foster Care Association as the independent living program manager. I've been a public speaker for about 15 years, and I want to open up with a story about my one of my first Ramadans that I've ever experienced. So I was about 12 years old, and actually, yeah, I was about 11 or 12 years old. And I remember I was in fifth grade, so probably I was like more like 10. And I was in gym class and I was extremely thirsty. And someone was like, even though you're fasting, you can take some water and just rinse it in your mouth. You don't just swallow it. And I'm like, God's, no one's looking at me. I can just drink the water. The whole gym was empty. Everyone left. I'm like, let me just drink the water. Like, no one's gonna know. And I drank the water. Now looking back, I'm like, God knew that I drank that water. Right? Even though nobody knew, God knew. I remember the second day of my fast of this Ramadan, which is a whole entire month, is I ended up. Oh, can people not hear? Can anyone hear me? Shafat, can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
Ryan can hear me. Okay. So I remember the second day of my fast, I had a chicken shawarma was for my iftar, and we're going to talk about what these words mean. And I was so hungry. And my understanding of Ramadan is that you don't eat from sunup to sundown, right? And I ended up eating. I'm looking at the timesheet and I ate. Now I come to find out that it's actually from dawn to sunset. So there's about an hour difference between the break of the sun rising, which is where the actual fast begins, until sunset as soon as the sun sets. So the reason I open up with this is because as a kid, I didn't really know these things. I kind of just figured them out. But it just goes to show you like Ramadan, my first year as really practicing was all about food. It was all about water and hungry and what do I do here? What do I do here? But now it's really a spiritual transformation, right? And that's really the essence of this blessed month of Ramadan, which we'll talk about in a second. Shafet, can you give me the ability to share, please? Oh,
Yep.
there it goes. All right, awesome. So, Ramadan is a month. There's 12 months in the Islamic calendar. The ninth month is the month of Ramadan. And essentially, what happens is Ramadan, because it falls on the lunar calendar, it actually moves a few days before each year, right? So last Ramadan, it started February 28th, and this year it's going to start February 17th. So the good thing is, God willing, next year is there'll be no daylight savings time switch. So that way, we kind of can break our fast early. But in the summertime, we would be breaking our fast super late, like 9:30. And what this essentially means is that Ramadan does change. So it could be right now it's going to be in more of the colder months, but it used to be in the summer. So if you have experience when Ramadan is and you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought it was in the summer, why is it in the winter now? It's because we go by the lunar calendar and that does change year after year. So what makes Ramadan special? So Muslims believe in the month of Ramadan is that it's the month in which the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, received revelation from God to Angel Gabriel for the very first time. That he was 40 years old. He was meditating in a cave, pondering over the bad things that the world was doing, and Angel Gabriel came to him with the first few verses of the Quran. And this is really what makes Ramadan special is that we're commemorating for the entire month one night that happened over 1500 years ago, and we honor the Quran in this month. And we do that through reading it. We do it through spiritually connecting with it, through prayers, through night prayers, through physically depriving. ourselves from food so we can spiritually fuel our heart. So this is one of the most spiritual beneficial months of the Islamic year for a few reasons. Aside from the Quran, one of the biggest reasons why this is a super spiritual month is because all the Muslims all over the world are fasting. They're all going through this exact same struggle. And when you feel like you're doing it as a community, the mosques are super busy, everyone is kind of having this exact same struggle, it hits so much more. It's a very communal experience. And in our religion of Islam, there are two Eids, which are two festivals. One commemorates the sacrifice of Prophet Abraham, and the other one happens to commemorate the month of Ramadan, which happens after either 29 or 30 days of the Ramadan month. And that is based on the new moon sighting. So as soon as the new moon hits, that's when Muslims begin their fast, right? Or that's when they know to fast the next day. So as soon as they see the sliver, if it's there, we fast. If we don't see the sliver and the moon is still there from the previous month, we don't fast. So we go based on that moon. We can also, use like if you go just Google and you use like NASA calculations, that's another thing to go by. And then it ends based on the new moon sighting. So this is how Muslims know that Ramadan has began and when it ends. Now, there's five pillars in the Islamic faith. The first one is bearing witness that there's only one God. One of them is prayer, doing the pilgrimage to Mecca, offering almsgiving or a charity of 2.5% of your wealth that's been accumulated over a year to the poor people, and then one of them is fasting in the month of Ramadan. And God says in the only time when Ramadan is mentioned in the Quran that this is a month where the Quran was revealed, what the Quran was, and this is kind of why like we're commemorating this month because of this book is that God focuses on what the Quran does, that it's a guidance, it's clear proof. And if you witness it, then God says fasting. So it's kind of like a secondary thing. Like fasting is what we do, but the main goal is to commemorate the Quran, and we fast because of that. So then God says to fast in this month when you see the moon, and if you're ill, right, if you're traveling, then you could skip these days of fasting and make them up later because God does not want there to be hardship on you. He wants there to be ease for you. And he wants you by the end of the month to feel grateful. So, one of the reasons why people fast is because they're able to feel how the poor feel, where there's someone that doesn't have food, where there's someone that, doesn't have the ability to go to the fridge and get water. We're sacrificing no water, no food, no gum, no relations for from dawn to sunset in order to be appreciative to God that we were able to complete this. And we're doing this for God. And what I really love about this verse in the Quran is that God says that he wants there to be ease, not hardship. And he says two different ways of this. He says, I want there to be ease and I don't want there to be hardship. It's kind of like a friend going to you and saying like, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Right. Just saying everything's going to be okay is sufficient. Just saying don't worry about it is sufficient. But using it together, like you're reassuring that person. So God's reassuring that this month is not made to be a challenge. It's not made to be difficult. So when we often tell people that we are fasting in the month of Ramadan, the first common thing that people will say is you can't even have water, right? And oh, I could never do that, right? There's this spiritual moment that happens that you're doing this for God, that the food and the water become something that's so minimal, right? That you're not even thinking about food and water. And that's why, like in the story, is that when I very first was fasting, my first days of Ramadan, that's all I could think about was food, and looking up, chocolate cake recipes and going into the refrigerator and smelling food, because that's all you're thinking about. But then when you kind of move on, that it's not about food, it's not about the water, it's about the sacrifice, it's about being grateful, it's about installing gratitude into your heart. The whole point of fasting just becomes second nature to us. And there's three dimensions to Ramadan: the behavioral aspect, the social aspect, and the spiritual aspect. These three different dimensions for behavioral, right? A lot of people often are cranky, right? But the whole point is that you're building spiritualness. You're being grateful. You're real, the hunger, the hangriness goes away after a couple days. And then it almost like by the mid Ramadan, it goes so fast that you're thinking to yourself, like, I can't believe it's almost over. So there's a behavioral dimension to it. There's a social dimension. This concept that there's a concept that you're going to the mosque at night, you're going to the mosque more, you're praying with people, you're going to iftars. Iftar means the breaking of the fast, the dinner that you breakfast, lunch, dinner. Iftar is the meal that you have as you break your fast. And then the spiritual dimension, you're connecting yourself to the Quran, to the remembrance of God, in your prayers. You're reading Quran a lot more, and you're really trying your best to spiritually charge yourself for the days after Ramadan, right? It's not something that, you're jumping into the pool and you're jumping back out. It's really a transformative journey in this month to develop these things, your behavior, social and spiritual dimensions. When it comes to the the behavioral dimensions, we're drawing closer to God. And the way that Muslims do that is they avoid sins. One of the other kind of behavioral dimensions is that someone that really, really is truly fasting, the highest form of spirituality is their behavior. The things that they were doing outside of Ramadan, they're not doing it because they know that this is the training field. This is the moment where we're going to spiritually charge ourselves. This is the moment where we are not going to be scrolling through TikTok. We're not going to doom scroll. We're not going to go watch, whatever Netflix show is out there. I know Stranger Things just passed, and there's another one my wife is watching. But it's this concept that you're literally locked in order to change your behaviors, right? You're waking up in the morning to pray. You're staying up all night to pray. You're not doing the behaviors that you were doing outside of the month. Backbiting, gossiping, using profanity. We're avoiding sins. We're changing our behavior, right? You're reconnecting. Then you're taking the negative behaviors that you're doing and you're filling it with good behaviors. Your daily prayers, strengthening your connection to the Quran, supplicating to God, asking for forgiveness, and gaining beneficial knowledge. The benefits of Ramadan in terms of the social dimension is that you are being more charitable. This is a time to be thinking of other individuals that don't have the blessings that we have. And then also the unity. There's a lot of mosques that do daily iftars. You go to the mosque during sunset and there'll be food there for you. There's a lot of every mosque has the Taraweeh prayer, which is a night prayer that happens after the fifth prayer. There's five daily prayers. After the fifth prayer, which is probably going to be around 8:30, is that they do a night prayer, which is known as Taraweeh, where some mosques finish the entire Quran in the whole month. So they'll read one out of the 30 sections of the Quran every single night so they can complete the Quran recitation. And usually this takes place for about an hour to an hour and a half. And this happens at the mosque. People can also do this at home. And this is something that's, of course, extra, but it's highly recommended to do. The biggest overall thing to do is to fast. And then all of these other extra things, refraining from bad words, these are ways that you can train your heart. So once Ramadan is over, you're being grateful to God and you realize that you can be a better person after this and after Ramadan is over. Kind of looking at Ramadan as a retreat, right? You go into this retreat as a certain person, you come out of it a different person, right? The Prophet Muhammad went in the cave as just a man and came out as a prophet. How do you want Ramadan to transform you? And there are disliked actions of fasting, tasting food, You can taste it and just and spit it out. That's perfectly fine if you're making food, for example, and you want to make sure that the food is not salty. You can put it in your mouth, you can taste it, and then spit it out. Obviously, something that's disliked is watching, movies and TV shows and just doing activities to kind of just pass the time. Using bad words, as I mentioned, backbiting, telling lies, swearing. These are behaviors that we're trying to move away from and trying to be a better person. And then, definitely complaining about the hunger and the thirst because it's not about that. It's truly about transforming your spirituality. Who's exempt from fasting? So I mentioned the verse over here that there are, God says that if you're ill or if you're traveling, then you're excused from fasting. If you are traveling, sometimes I'll travel. Like last year, I traveled to Wisconsin and it was very easy for me. But if I had not wanted to, I didn't have to fast because I was traveling. If someone is sick, my mother's diabetic, she's unable to fast, she's excused from fasting. She has to pay like $10 a day just to pay someone that is to pay a meal for someone that is poor because she's exempt from fasting. This is kind of her way of fasting, is that we pay we pay every single day we pay for a meal to for someone so that they're able to eat, which is usually about $10. So for the whole month, she's paying $300 to feed someone because she's diabetic and can't fast. My wife, she's making up her days. She has 17 days to make up after three children and nursing, where she felt like there was a fear where if she was fasting that she wouldn't be able to provide the proper care for her children and my children, our children. I used to say my first kid that I don't know if I have time to digress. I'd always say like I'm like, oh, we're pregnant. And my wife would always look at me and she's like, what do you mean we're pregnant? I'm pregnant. You're just, anyways, I digress. Um, and then people that are of old age that are unable to fast, if they're taking medicine, if a woman is if it's her time of the month, she's excused from fasting as well. And then they just make up the days after the month is over. If a child is so what is the legal age of fasting? According to Islam, reaching the age of puberty or the age of 15, whatever happens first, that's when a Muslim is required to fast. My child, who is 8 right now, is planning on fasting when he was 6 and 7. 6, 7, it's a joke. Never mind if you don't get it. Is he would do half day fast. Brian's like, yep, I get it. He would do half day fast just to feel like he's a part of Ramadan. So when he'd get home from school till sunset, he would fast and then he would eat with the family, feeling like he's a part of iftar. And this is just to kind of get children in the excitement of, that fasting is something that Muslims do. So what does this mean for foster youth? Number one is that it is more than just not eating, right? Oftentimes, I remember when I was in school, even my first job, my manager would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry you're fasting. I'm like, don't be sorry. Like, I'm doing this for God, right? Like, I used to work with the special needs community, and one of the most irritating things that special need parents would tell me is that when people feel bad that they have a special needs child, and it's like, I don't want you to feel bad, right? So oftentimes it's it's not, and if someone came up to me and said like, I feel so bad for you that you're fasting, I don't get like upset about that. I'm just like it's nothing to be upset about. Like I'm doing this for God. Like the food and water is nothing, right? When we were in during lunchtime when we were in high school, they would say like you can go to the auditorium so you're not seeing people eat, right? As if like we would be like staring at these people like, oh my God, they can eat and we're craving the food. When I was working in a restaurant, I had no problem working in the hot back of the line and I'm working, running around, sweating. It's obviously not fun to do, but it's perfectly normal. It's a part of the sacrifice, it's a part of the journey. But it is more than just not eating. And to be very transparent, the whole point of Ramadan is that spiritual connection, but giving our body a break, giving your body the break that it needs in order to just relax, in order to just feel like I don't need food right now. I want to, just, oftentimes you'll find when people are talking about intermittent fasting or fasting for, 72 hours, is that your body's repairing itself, right? So it is more than just not eating. It is a spiritual time. It's often a time for reflection. A lot of Muslim youth are looking for that identity, right? Going to the mosque and wanting to be a part of something. An increase of emotional sensitivity may happen, reflecting can surface of grief and loss. There may be some painful memories of just a youth that wants to be with family or wants to feel connected to their culture and their faith and may not have that ability to do so. And then just show empathy and don't be too concerned. Like, oh my goodness, I remember my brother-in-law would be like to my nephew who's like 15, like oh my God, that's so hard for him to fast like 18 hours, and it's just like I get it, but the human body can fast for days without water and food. So just be empathetic and don't be too concerned about the food part. Also, what this means for foster youth is that moment of feeling different or isolated in schools, at dinner time, things of that nature. There may be shame or guilt if someone can't fully fast. And often my mother feels extremely guilty around Ramadan that she can't fast. And I just tell her, like, God says in the Quran that it's okay, right? So often there is guilt and shame. Sleep disruption is the worst, like by far. I get super tired. I'll want to come home and just knock out right after school or work. And I realize I can't because my kids are off school and they want to play, and I don't want to just put on screen time for 4 hours. So sleeping is a big thing. We'll wake up and have suhoor. Suhoor means is the meal that you eat before you begin your fast. Suhoor, you obviously want to like plan your meals accordingly. Drinking water, having healthy food, fruits. You don't want to eat like fried food and like a bunch of stuff that's going to make you thirsty or feel lethargic throughout the day. You want to set yourself up for success. So having a good suhoor meal, which is a meal that you would eat before a meal that you would eat before you begin your fast, and then iftar is the meal that you eat once sunset happens. Typically, you would break your meal with dates and water, and then you would eat whatever meal you would like. But the sleep disruption is really like bad. So just, waking up at like 4:15 in the morning, it does take some time to adjust. But it's always good to put food in your body. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there's a saying that says that there's blessings in that meal, right? It's not like it's not like you missing out on it and not having food, or I'm gonna fast for an extra 4 more hours. It's not gonna do anything. There's no more extra credit that you can get. So it is good to consume food. But again, you do need your rest. You do need sleep, especially if you're staying up all night trying to pray. The hunger, the hangriness really happens because you can't have coffee. Like when the sun is up, you can have it definitely before, but having like coffee, smoking, stuff like that could really irritate someone a lot. And losing focus in school, things of that nature. Hangriness is very real. Hangriness is very real. So don't take things personally if someone's fasting and they're a little anxious. So that's what in terms of that. And in terms of how we can help, and then we'll open it up for questions in a moment. So ask open-ended, non-assumptive questions. What does Ramadan usually look like for you? Like, how can I make your experience something that you are familiar with? Because not every Ramadan looks the same with everybody. Yes, everyone's fasting, But for a college student, they may not be able to go to the mosque because they're studying. Last time, I think it was during finals, and it was very difficult. You have to pick between spiritually worshiping God and studying. Avoid pressuring youth to fast correctly. Like, oh, we got to get you to the mosque. We got to get you to here. We got to get you here. That's something that is like super Muslim, right? But you have to meet people where they're at. And like my son, when I would take him to the mosque, the first night he's exhausted. When you do the night prayers, you're standing up for a whole hour in prayer, and it is tiring. It's exhausting. So you do want to pace yourself as well. And then normalize flexibility. If someone has medication that they need, you do want to practice safety when it comes to fasting, especially for youth and individuals with mental health issues. And then recognize that fasting as a choice, not a compliance issue. For the routine, allow youth to save food for sunset. So like if you're eating before them, just have food for them. Or if you're having iftar with them, that would even make things great. Offer quiet spaces during lunch hours. If you are in that setting, understand that there's going to be energy dips, especially in the afternoon after school, things of that nature. Being flexible with morning routines, waking up at all different hours of the night, and just being supportive through those that means. And then making sure there's obviously healthy food, and that you're supporting those moments and meaningful moments that the youth are trying to have. So supporting emotional and spiritual regulation, link Ramadan practices to healing. Fasting can heighten self-awareness, not just hunger. Youth may feel more emotional or reflective. Gentle grounding techniques when emotions do surface. Always encourage quiet reflection, journaling, art, and then respect prayer time without making it a big deal. So these are different ways that we can support emotionally. And then some things to say is, how can I support you this month, which we talked about. Um, it's okay if your Ramadan looks different. And avoid saying you shouldn't fast. That's not healthy for you. This isn't, like if someone's not praying, you don't have to push them and say, no, you got to pray, you got to pray, you got to pray. And you got to pray all night and exhausting them. Or saying like you can make it up later. Treat fasting as something that you should always make sure like you treat fasting where that person is. How can staff create a sense of belonging? Acknowledge Ramadan in a low pressure way. Celebrate Eid. This is a great thing to do is, you can just look up like ways to celebrate Eid. There's a lot of different ways. Usually what happens is the day of Eid, Muslims will go out and pray with the entire community at the mosque. There's usually renting out soccer fields and basketball courts and stuff like that, and be a part of this happy, joyful moment of all the hard work that they're doing. Allow youth to teach individuals if they want, right? There's a lot of YouTube videos, and I would recommend as homework to check them out. Is just Google or go to YouTube and just put in I participated in Ramadan videos. There's a great one by Nathaniel Drew Shifat. I don't know if you could try to find it and drop it in the chat, but he basically fasts for like a week and then shares his experience, right? I think watching videos of this and participating in the fast is so encouraging to see from a Muslim's perspective. And then advocate for youth in schools. It's a big thing. I remember when I first was in I remember when I was in fifth grade, we never used to get Eid off, and 80% of the school would be like out. And now it's considered a holiday and school is closed. But I remember like my mom had to go there and say like during lunchtime, please make sure this takes place. Please make sure you're easy on the kids. A lot of times teachers, like even for finals, there's a lot of college professors that will say it's okay. You don't have to take this test. You can take it during this time, or you could submit it during this time. So just making sure that you let the schools know if they don't already know that Ramadan's coming up, and this is if there's any accommodations that can happen or take place. So then key takeaways, and this is the last thing that we'll talk about. Ramadan, it's about dignity, choice, and connecting to God, spiritually connecting to God. Offer support in terms of flexibility, being curious, and respecting. When youth feel culturally seen, regulation and trust improve. So make sure that don't make things too awkward, and meeting them where they're asking them like, what does Ramadan look like for you? And how can I be a part of that support? And then small accommodations truly do have a big emotional impact. Having dates in the house, decorating the house with lanterns, just making it feel like it's Ramadan for that individual. So, with that being said, I do want to leave it open for questions. I'll stop sharing my screen. And if there's any questions, just drop them in the chat. Or if you want to unmute yourself, we can go from there.
Hello, this is Raul.
Oh,
I'm a volunteer with Samaritas, and I just want to thank y'all for putting this on. A lot of education is happening, so I appreciate that. Um, One question I had was kind of for the organization or for us as a mentor, who should talk with the school to, is the organization going to have a conversation with the school that these children are going to, or is that something that a mentor should be doing or could be doing? Yeah.
Khadija, do you want to maybe answer that one? I'll defer that to her or Sheikh.
Sorry, can you just repeat that question?
Yeah. I was just wondering whose role it is to speak to the school to make sure that they are accommodating our students. Or is that something that I would do as a mentor, or should I be, is that something Samaritan does, or how does that work?
So in the past, we typically encourage the agency, so it could either be, a letter from the director or the case manager to the school. I know early on, like in the school year, there's typically conversations being had about, the Muslims in the school, what, religious responsibilities they may have, whether that's praying like midday, or like if they're fasting, if they can like stay away from like the cafeteria area, or if it's on Fridays they have a separate room to pray their Friday prayers or get picked up that day. But essentially the conversation is being had with the agency first. I wouldn't recommend a mentor doing it early on. It should be done in an official capacity. So a case manager, director, and I know some agencies typically have like just a letter that's like prepared, for the schools. So you can ask, you say you were Samaritas?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so maybe like reach out to Martha or, some of the case manager for the youth that you're mentoring and see what they have prepared.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, hope that answered your question.
Sounds good. And there's a question in the chat from Rose, uh, that says if a youth struggles with eating in general, how do we encourage them to fast in a healthy way? Which is a really great question. So I think one way and first and foremost is just asking them, what does fasting look like for you? Like, have you fasted in the past? And then, avoiding saying things like, you know, it's okay, don't worry about it, you don't have to fast kind of thing, and just kind of brushing it off. If they want to fast, don't look at that as a way of like, oh my God, they're not eating at all, and now they're not eating, to begin with. Um, I think that's one way. Number two is that if they do have like a eating disorder, they are excused from fasting. So if someone has an illness, whether it's they're sick, they have the flu, or they do have a mental health issue that they're struggling with, they are essentially excused um, from fasting. And one thing that I would do is to just ask, do you plan on fasting? And if they are saying yes, just make sure you're giving them the proper nutrients. If they need multivitamins, making them like smoothies to break their fast with like, potassium and all that jazz. Just making sure they have the right food that they want to nourish, you want that they would like to nourish their body with, and that's healthy for them. I'm not sure if Sheikh or Shifat, Ren, Khadija, if you want to jump in on any experiences that you've had to answer this question, but that's how I would answer it.
I would also recommend they don't have to fast the whole day, even if they do want to fast. So like they could fast only on the weekends for a few hours or just like a few hours in the day rather than trying to do it until like, the whole day. So that could potentially also help them a little bit.
Hmm.
The
I think
next
also
question. Oh, go ahead.
um, we can connect people. We've done this in the past where we've brought on like a pediatrician and connected the caseworker and the youth and or the family with the pediatrician to maybe just talk a little bit about, the just to, uh go over any concerns with the fasting too. So if it is something that, is beyond what you think is normal, then, feel free to reach out to us.
Awesome. And just answering the question that came in, what's the significance of lanterns for Ramadan? There's not really a significance. It's just if you look up Ramadan decorations, it's one of the first thing that comes about. Um, I'm sure there's like some like spiritual symbolism that's involved, like with lanterns. Obviously, like um, an actual lantern lights things up, and when you're fasting, you know, spiritually, the way I view it is that your heart is being lit up, and that heart illuminates, right? But there's really no significance to like, you know, the two lanterns, but a lot of decorations. If you go to like Pinterest and stuff like that, you'll find lanterns being a decoration for Ramadan. It is more cultural. Yeah.
I can add on to that, but that's okay. Like lanterns, like you said, it is about, light and hope specifically, but it is an Egyptian culture actually, in the Fatimid era where they used to actually just light lanterns. It has no religious association like with Ramadan specifically, but it has become a tradition and a cultural use over the years. So I know if youth do this back home and you want to feel more accommodating towards them, you are more than welcome to include that. And I think also like when we send out decorations to certain agencies, we have like lantern decorations and stuff like that. I know we spoke to some agencies and they requested specific decorations and like decor or something like that, and we've sent it out to them. So if you find that it's important for the youth to have like lanterns or anything in particular, just please let us know.
As more questions are coming in, I'm just gonna launch the post-Ramadan poll that we have. So you guys can ask questions, but just kind of fill that out as you guys are doing that.
Ryan, you had a question?
Yeah, I've got sort of a specific question. I'm a recent mentor with Samaritas for a youth he's now 19 years old. He's an adult, and I'm just really getting to know him. Um, and I've been trying to take him out of his apartment because he seems to sit in his apartment all the time. How I know he attends mosque on Fridays, but he hasn't told me much more about his religious devotion or whatever. How does Ramadan affect his daily life, not necessarily fasting, but what he does with his time, what his willingness to go out and do something with me or that? How is he likely to be, how is it likely to affect my ability to take him somewhere and do something with him?
Right. Great question. I think for me, like, if I think one of the greatest things that I've had done for me by people that have wanted to connect with me and that I've wanted to connect with is just saying after like the night prayer is over, if people go there, or even just after iftar, going to like a dessert place or a coffee shop to just kind of hang out. and just meeting people where they're at, or saying like, hey, I want to invite you over for iftar, or hey, like, I want to bring you some iftar, or you can have, bringing someone a plate of food and saying, hey, like, that you can break your fast on these sweets or anything of that nature. Finding different community events or programs is nice, and inviting that person to them. So often, there's a lot more lectures and events that are taking place. So finding those events and inviting that person to them. It is probably going to be a time where this individual is going to be going to the mosque more outside of just the Friday prayer. So, whether that's, for all the five daily prayers, whether that's for the night prayer, that's kind of how I would say. So, just inviting into those spaces, whether they're lectures, whether they're iftar dinners, whether it's just saying, hey, let's grab some food after iftar, or hey, like I prepared this for you for your meal. And Sheikh, I don't know if you wanted to chime in.
Did you want to add something onto that?
Yeah,
Or-
if I could
Yeah.
ask a follow-up, um, the, am I should I be asking him out after iftar to do things? How about during the day? Um, how much is he likely to be or possibly going to be attending mosque during this time where I shouldn't really be inviting him to do something else?
I can but I'll just jump in real quick. I think well, Brian, first of all, like thank you obviously for, mentoring the youth, especially the foster youth. They all need uh different kinds of support, and hopefully you're that support for him. I would say like before, kind of thinking about what is it, what times you want to go out with him, what he would or potentially do. I think, evaluate your relationship with him, like currently, like what kind of relationship you have. Is it more on like the official side where you're just like checking in with him, for the sake of like the mentorship program, or if there's like a lot more connecting that needs to be had. So if he's staying in a lot, and this is prior to Ramadan, if he's staying in a lot, again, you know him better than all of us. Why is he staying in more? Is he more comfortable, staying in? Is it the political climate that's making him not want to go out? Things like that. Where is he from? Does he have like a background where there's a lot of trauma? So I think, things that you would probably like know more about than we would. But as Brother Bilal said that, as Ramadan approaches, typically we become more involved in like community things. So like, collective prayer or, breaking fast together, the Friday prayers and stuff like that. But this is me just assuming. Now, not all youth are necessarily inclined to do these things. Some aren't just they just aren't religious,
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say, going to pray or fasting is a religious thing, but some people just don't want to partake. So you know the
Understood.
youth better than like most of us, but I think in terms of um, having him, come out the house, doing more activities with him, I think one of the biggest hurdles right now with our youth is that they're not being involved in society as we want them. We're not, we want to expose them, to, the
Yes.
better parts of society, to activities and stuff like that. And they can only acclimate if, they step outside. So, I mean, let's work on some strategies, figure out what's keeping him inside, what's preventing him from go outside, stuff like that. Um, if you put a little more work, I guess, in that sense, maybe we can figure that out.
I appreciate the support. Thank you all.
Yeah, sorry it wasn't a direct answer, but
No,
not all
that's
youth are the
okay. That
same.
was very helpful.
Yeah.
Brian, if you want, go ahead and shoot an email over to either Bilal or Sheikh. If you guys want to drop your emails into the chat, then we can continue this conversation further.
Great. I will send the email into the chat.
Yeah, I just dropped my email, and this is for anyone else who has like any specific questions with youth and needs support in particular situations. We are more than happy to hop on one-on-one calls and see how we can help. So this is my email in the chat. I just put it there if anyone wants to email me.
Hi, this is Raul again. Um, Other question that I had was, so for the last 2 years, I have participated in Ramadan in solidarity with Muslims. And I don't know exactly how to approach that with the student that I have assigned to me. I want to participate respectfully. And so I just want to get maybe some ideas of how to approach that, or, you know, is a person who's not Muslim, uh, is that okay for me to ask to be could I be a part of anything that happens at the mosque? Or, I just want to integrate my life with his more. Um, I also am a new mentor. And so I just want to be sensitive on how I go about that.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I don't think there's anything personally for me. I think it's exciting to see someone want to do something like that. I don't think like no one will ever take offense or anything like that. You'll definitely feel invited and welcomed. Um, so I don't know, Sheikh, I don't know if you wanted to jump in. I keep deferring to you because
Yeah, I don't know why. You have all the answers. No, did we meet at the Samaritas party? Your voice sounds familiar.
Yes, sir. And I'm actually on a work phone, and it comes up as a different name as somebody else. But yeah, this is Raul.
Okay, yeah, yeah. What's going
Mm.
on, man? That's nice to see you here. We actually met him at the Samaritas party, the holiday party. No, I think like Brother Bilal said, you'll definitely be, more than welcome to fast. No one is ever opposed to including people outside of, the practice to practice with them. I will say, honestly, my only advice is that if you are being invited to break fast, like to be prepared because there's always, tons and tons of food. If your stomach is not used to that, then that would really be the only issue. Other than that, you're more than welcome to step foot in any of the mosques, attempt to pray with them, attempt to fast with them. There definitely will be, welcoming arms for sure.
Right on. Another real
If
quick question.
maybe
Is there a difference of what Ramadan looks like for Muslims from different countries? Um, yeah, does it look different depending on your country?
That's a beautiful question. I don't know. We are so as you know, Muslims aren't a monolith. We're definitely diverse in many, many, many ways. I'm like half Dominican, half Bengali. Shifa here is Sudanese. Brother Bilal is, he's Lebanese. So there's definitely um, diversity there. What it looks like in terms of actual practice, the fasting is the same. Like the idea of fasting is the same all across. We fast, from morning time to till it's time to break our fast. What breaking fast looks like, that could be different, based on the culture you come from. So obviously, like the types of food, how people welcome that last hour, what they do after that, that is definitely different. Even, the way they may dress, the way, like I said, the way they prepare, for the religious practices as well. But I think, for someone who's like not a Muslim, like there's a lot of like details that are in different cultures that I think um, either may confuse you, because it still confuses me as a Muslim, but may confuse you, or it just isn't necessary for everyone to actually partake in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But the fasting is the same. No one's is not fasting because they're from a different culture or background. The fasting is the same. The only thing that's different is probably the food.
I do have a question based off of that. I have a youth that is very adamant, that the program is going to, provide a lamb to slaughter, um, for Ramadan. How can we help him achieve that want or need in Ramadan? Because he is very adamant that I believe he said either daily that he wanted a lamb to slaughter or just on Fridays.
I'm sorry. You said that you have a youth who wants to slaughter a lamb?
Yes, in the morning, for breaking fast at night.
I think
Uh,
maybe talking about Eid al-Adha,
Eid, yeah.
which,
I
yeah,
think
I
he's
think that
referring
might.
to our second holiday, which is like a sacrificial like holiday. Um, would you like to connect separately so we could get a little more details?
Yeah, that would be awesome
Yeah, I
because
don't know if it's a cultural thing, if they're slaughtering lambs the night before, but I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think that's something that the majority of Muslims do on a daily basis in Ramadan.
okay, yeah, when we tried asking him more clarified questions, he got very defensive.
Mm.
Um,
What's his ethnicity?
he is from Guinea.
He's from Guinea. Okay.
We can
Um,
research a little bit too and find out
yeah, for sure. But if you also like to
their
connect
practice.
those, just to get a little more details, we can. Um, but either way, I don't think it would be doable for any agency.
That's
Even
what
like
we told him.
even like the laws of whatever city you're in, you can't just, slaughter in the backyard, more so on agency grounds.
Yeah, he had also mentioned that his shelter had done it for him. Um, so I'm also trying to reach out to the shelter to see the accuracy in that.
I think yeah, it must be a confusion of what it is, but usually Rose on our second holidays, we have two a year. The second holiday is something where we commemorate the sacrifice of Abraham, and that involves the slaughter of a lamb and distribution of it to the poor, the needy, family, etc. So I wonder if there's just maybe some stuff lost in translation or something.
Okay, okay, thank you guys.
But definitely drop your email in the chat and then we can connect and then figure out something. Thank you. Well, that is all for our workshop today. If you guys don't have any more questions, but if you guys do, please don't hesitate to email either me, Sheikh, Khadija, or Balad, or anything of that sort, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have, or just help with youth this Ramadan. But yeah, that is all, and then I hope to see you guys for our next workshop that we'll have in February.
I have one more thing, sorry.
Thank you.
If anyone needs a dad joke for Ramadan, you can always say Ramadan is almost Ramadan. If any, okay.
Yeah, sorry,
So
man.
if you need, forget it. Don't use the joke. Forget it.
Okay.
Thank you all. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man.